Welcome. Beatrix,
Dr. Abe. Thanks for having me here.
of course, you're most welcome. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell our audience a little bit about you.
I'm a transformational coach, and I work with leaders who want to create an inclusive workplace culture. They have recognized that this can be a competitive differentiator, and I do this mostly in individual coaching sessions, sometimes also in group sessions, and sometimes in workshops and trainings.
So those sessions, they're coaching sessions to individual leaders who would seek your guidance, or a company organization that tap on your resources, and then you come and bring your skills and expertise to the environment. How did you? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. How did you become a coach? So you didn't just woke up one day and say, okay, I'm going to become a coach.
I have been looking at power relationships, and I often found that the power that we usually see in the world, independently whether we speak of organizational context and managers with their direct reports, or teachers with their students, or parents with their kids, it's very often a power over approach. So it's a type of power that I see as independent versus interdependent. That's very dominant, very individualistic, very competitive, with a sense of if I win, then you lose. And I had this sense that there must be a different type of power, something that is as powerful, so no compromise on the strength on it, but something that is interdependent, that is power with others, that is collaborative, that is creative, and that is compassionate.
I love that. And then?
Well, I think that's also an ongoing journey.
Learning journey is a continuing journey. But when did you find out, okay, I'm ready to teach others? That's what I meant. This is the power dynamics that I've seen before. I don't like it. They don't have to be competitive. Let's create a collaborative effort, and let me teach it. When to teach it to others, let me coach others on this.
It was not an epiphany. So it was not like a big aha moment, like, oh, no, I'm going to do this.
Okay.
It was really step by step, starting, as I said, with my children, child development, child psychology. How do you respectfully discipline and inspire children? I was examining cultural patterns. So there is a lot of this in actually all cultures. It's very the patriarchy that's coming through, and I have read a lot around this, and I realized that patriarchy is actually not just hurting women; it's also hurting men. And it's not just perpetuated by men, it's also perpetuated by women. And these are all power structures where one person or one group is considered less than, independently of why. Is it because it's a woman, because they come from a certain country, they have a certain color of the skin, they practice a certain faith? But these are all power relationships.
This is a structure of power that does exist within societies, regardless of faith or color or
Yes.
or whatever, or even orientation. And then what did you do with that? So what did that help you? How did you more from that point to becoming the coach that you are now?
I think the seed of inspiration was coming from my kids. Becoming a mother has been a very big change, a very and desired change for me. So I was very much looking forward to it, and I was totally in this bubble with my kids. And I knew that there are certain things that I want to do differently than what I have seen or what I have seen in among my friends or extended family. And I didn't have an example for it. So
Okay.
I knew I don't want this, but I didn't know what do you want. So I
Mhm.
needed to read. And that's how it came. It started with a personal work because I knew that the smallest unit that we can change is number one, ourselves.
Is the self. Okay.
And number two, it's your immediate family.
Okay.
So, of course, some people, if you have a huge sphere of influence, you can change the world to some extent. Um, but I think it's as important to do change in a small sphere of influence, to do it for yourself, for your family, because that will carry it through to the people that they are interacting with.
Mhm.
So it started like this. And then as I was looking for, okay, I want to do something, a professional activity. I don't want to have just an identity as a mother. Um,
Which is nothing wrong with that. You just want to do something
there is
outside
there is
of that
nothing
norm.
wrong with that,
Hmm.
and I'm 500% passionate as a mother and very intentional as a mother.
Hmm.
But kids go away. Kids grow up, and kids go away, and that's normal. And I knew that if my whole identity is just being a mother, it will break my heart. And I will be very, very sad the day when they go away, even if it's still several years ahead. So I need to have other roles and other identities and other activities so that I know that it's, um, again, it's a diversity. If you have in all your eggs in one basket, if the eggs break, then all your eggs are broken.
I like how you put it together and you morphed it into from the I to the we to from the
Yes.
self to the family, from the family to the neighbors, to the neighborhood, from the neighborhood to community, community organization, organization, society. So this is really the steps you're heading from the self. And although being a mother is a noble thing, and you're doing and you are doing an excellent job on in that, but you're smart enough to know and realize in the future, whenever they get married, they're not going to stay with you forever. Help them design their lives, they fly away. But then what are you doing? So, and then you said, okay, I'm raising them well, they are with me, but now I'm going to do something to help others in society, in organizations within the society.
Because I think that change is possible, and change would also benefit having more humanity, but and and that's actually enough, more than enough already, if we would have more humanity in this world. But then of course organizations are there to to grow, to create value, hopefully also social value,
Yes.
and that also requires change.
Corporate responsibility is really part of making
Yes.
society better, where organization operate within a society for the betterment of that society while benefiting along the way. But purposeful organizations, they do help societies that they operate within. And then your role comes as a coach now to these leaders of these organizations. What do you talk about in these sessions? What are you specializing in these sessions? You're not training them, you're a coach.
No.
Yeah,
Small,
you're a
yes.
coach.
So
Yeah.
sessions are free flow conversations. There
Okay.
is no agenda. My client comes to the session with their thoughts, questions, dilemmas, challenges, whatever is on their mind. And we will always tie it into inclusiveness. I help them to discover their personal values and guiding principles. So we will spend usually in the first session some time around this, and then everything else is tied back to the values. Because when you know your your personal values, they they help you to know why you do things. And when you
Why you do
know
things the way
why,
you do them.
yes,
Yeah.
and what's your priority, and how do you take decisions and what do you accept or what do you not accept. Um, and our choices over time become our habits, and our habits become part of our identity. All
We create our
decisions we
own
take.
norms. The norms become our habits, and habits become our behaviors, and this is how we.
Exactly. So in transformational coaching, there is always the question, who do you become through your choices? And the choices you take, are they aligned with your values and with who you want to become, with your ideal of your best self?
What's the
And
best
that needs
self?
to be,
What's an ideal best self to you as a coach?
you know, there was this HSBC advertisement of having some words and then the same word with a totally different picture. So, for example, success is I don't know, fishing at the pond, or success is becoming CEO of a big organization. So I'm totally open. It's up to my client to define what is their best self. Usually, a best self is something that we are aware of and that we consciously choose and that is aligned with our values. And within this, it can be 10,000 things, depending on how you want to show up in the world, how do you want to contribute, and what are the values that you want to practice.
Nicely said, and the thought process, how you put it together, is wonderful. Okay, so now they know what they want. You guide them through it. You coach them through it. And you said transformational. So transformational is when they start with you of not knowing where they want to go, or they know exactly what their best self is, and then you guide them, coach them into it, and they reach that level now, right?
Sometimes they know.
How do you
Some
help them find it? Do you help them find it too, or they just tell you? So it's
Yes,
part of your coaching.
I hear a lot about coaching culture in companies and leaders who operate as coaches, and then they coach their direct reports and colleagues. And that's all good. So I think we would need a lot more coaching culture in the world and in organizations. But it's still a profession. So you can learn basics of many things. I think it's not by accident that you pursue different trainings and certifications to become more skilled in leading certain conversations that will bring insight, so that will raise the awareness of the client, and that also helps them to move into action. And that requires also a very special relationship that is fully trusted. And ideally, it's also neutral. So that's why I think when a leader coaches their direct reports, there can be some limitations. It can work to a certain extent, but the relationship is still there. It's a leader with their direct reports.
We go back to the power structure.
Exactly. While an external coach is a neutral person. So the trust is totally different. The people are fully equal, and the coach will both give support and validation. But the coach also has to challenge and stretch the client. Because if there is no stretching, then there will be no change.
When you say stretch, meaning challenge them to be better.
Yes, to explore different perspectives and to try things that they haven't tried before. And that's scary because when we have never tried something, then usually, well, we are clumsy at the beginning, right? That's the same whether we do swimming or waveboarding or leading a diverse team. And also, there is no guarantee of outcome. There is no guarantee of success, and there is no guarantee of support or validation from others. And we're social beings. We love being validated. We love being understood, and know that people are behind us,
supporting us, recognizing us. You're doing a good job. Those kind of things. So you talked about diversity and you talked about inclusion. Why are those important in your profession? You think a leader should practice those or implement these concepts in their organizations?
Well, I think we all have been at times in our lives in an out group. So every person on this planet knows how to be excluded. That's pretty painful as a feeling. That's for one thing. But there is also the business case. Well, there is also legal and economic imperatives that the world has changed, and not just with COVID. That's, of course, a whole new, different era. But there are emerging markets. There is a more diverse workforce across geographic locations,
Why are they
generation.
important to have diverse marketplace or organizations? Why not just
Yes,
say
well, through
homogeneous?
technology, we are interconnected.
Mhm.
So I think without technology, it's easier to think only of our little world. But with technology, we're interconnected. And with the emerging markets, there is a lot more competition.
Mhm.
Now, a business, the first imperative of a business is to grow, to create value, to make money. How do you do this? You have to differentiate. And for this, you need to be creative. So you need to be innovative. But how do you innovate? Well, for this, you cannot innovate if everybody is the same. If everybody has the same diploma, the same way of thinking. So you need diversity. And diversity in itself will not create innovation yet. You have to enable it, you have to activate it. And that's inclusive leadership.
If I may add, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and a heterogeneous environment definitely add to diversity and add to the innovation and creativity. But in the same time, you may have homogeneous organizations, but you see creativity. And if I may add, just based on experience, one reason people become more innovative is thinking outside the box. Could be on
Yes,
a homogeneous or heterogeneous. One going in line with your thinking is heterogeneous environment definitely the way to go because it brings different dimension, different perspectives.
yes,
But to be creative, all you need to be just be curious. Have one person curious, thinking outside the
absolutely.
box, and then innovation
Yes.
comes into play. Very good. And then inclusion. Why is that the same thing? That's
No,
why.
it's not the same thing at
Good. So
all.
tell
And
me.
sometimes it is being confused, especially in diverse environments. Some people think at first sight that, oh, we have diversity, so we have inclusion, but that's not how it is.
Okay. Please tell
Inclusion
us.
is a felt experience of being accepted, welcome, heard, and valued.
Hmm.
And that's very subjective. And an inclusive leader is someone who can enable this, who will seek out, who is aware of their own style and functioning and preferences, and who is able to work and invites to work with people who are different from themselves.
So we may have a diverse or a group or team, but if they don't contribute and feel they're included, it's like not useless, but it doesn't make any difference. So an
No.
inclusive leader, as you're saying, is you create a diverse group, a diverse team, diverse organization, but in the same time to include them, you invite them to contribute to whatever the topic is or the
Yes.
project. So you seek their feedback and seek their perspective as well, so they feel they're part of the organization.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think it's easy to oversee tiny moments where this can become challenging. So most people and most organizations want to see themselves as inclusive and tolerant and welcoming.
They advertise like that. They market themselves as that to feel
And
good.
you don't meet a person who says, oh, no, I'm not tolerant and I only want to work with people who are exactly like me.
Mhm.
Um, So these are mostly unconscious and very subtle things. So becoming an inclusive leader, I think, requires awareness, but also a lot of courage to facilitate certain things. Because if I say that, oh, we're in a meeting and different perspectives are welcome, if people don't believe it, if people don't feel it, that it's really welcome and invited, they will not speak up because it's a risk.
Advice to leaders out there to make the contributions of their employees as easy as possible, and they facilitate it. What would be some of the techniques you would advise for leaders to do that?
Well, there are many things. One thing is inclusive language.
Meaning,
Not speaking to a specific group. It's a very simple thing. Is, hey guys. Okay, that's not really pejorative, but guys means people who are men.
right.
So if there are women in the room, they might not feel addressed.
Now it became more like a standard. It means both now, male and female, if they're in a group. Although it has a different connotation, you're right. But now if you say, hey, hi guys, to a group of people, the understanding is they're both. But you're right, it doesn't say both.
Yes.
So how would you address them then? Hi people.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, so this is one, and then we go to contribution.
I think these things happen over time. So doing one thing in one meeting might surprise people if they are not used to it, but that's not what creates the trust that this leader is really inclusive. I think it's also about speaking of themselves, of how, their difficulties and how they manage those difficulties. I think it's sometimes of not putting themselves under pressure to know everything as a leader. So I think good leaders have and need good advisors. And there are situations when people don't know how things will evolve, like with COVID. It's most organizations and leaders felt quite overwhelmed. It was all very complex and very volatile, so fast changing. That's okay.
They didn't have the experience how to deal with it.
No.
Nobody taught them before, and it wasn't new to everyone. This is a new thing. This is a new uncertain time that you have to maneuver it for you to be able to reach it.
Another thing on what leaders can do is practicing curiosity. That sounds a lot easier than being done. But it relates to this knowing it all, fixing it all, of simply inviting people to speak up of their own perspective. And having a different perspective of not labeling things like, oh, but this is crazy, or oh no, we don't have a budget for this, or oh no, this is not aligned with our brand image. But just have in some meetings this curiosity of looking of different thought patterns and ideas.
So basically, think outside the box. Think outside the box, even for a leader, not only for the individual working with that leader. For a leader to think outside the box and have different perspectives, so everybody can share their own opinions and feedback.
Another idea is that in meetings, you see a lot of power dynamics. Usually, it's a few people who have power who will speak most of the time. And then you lose out on all the people who have less power, be it power in regards to their rank or hierarchy within the organization, their experience, their network power, their skills. And so if you invite them in, or if you say that, okay, I ask a question, and the first person to respond will be the one with the least experience, for example. It's also, let's say, when you have a meeting and people discuss different things, and then the leader or whoever is facilitating the meeting, and then at the end they say, okay, any objections? Well, especially in Asia, we'll not speak up. Any objections? No objections. Okay, so
Although
we
they
smile,
want
we
to,
nod, and everything is good. Even
although
though
they
they
want
might
to.
think that, oh, actually, we should do this a bit differently. So how do you ask for input? If you ask, for example, are there any other perspectives? Have we forgotten something? Can we explore this from a different point of view? That usually invites people a lot more to speak up because it sounds less risky as when asking any objections. Objection, it sounds like that's gonna be a conflict, and most people don't want conflict.
The way you approach it also plays a part in how you solicit these feedback and the contributions from others. Very enlightening and insightful. Very insightful. Very good. So how do people who can find you? Where can they find you at if they need to reach you?
Well, I have my website,
Which is?
beatrixedercoaching.com, and I'm quite active on LinkedIn, again, under my name. So those are the easiest ways to find me.
Wonderful. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
You're most
It was
welcome.
a pleasure speaking with you.
Same here. You be safe, okay?